Hi guys, today is the 19th of June 2020 and it's 38 minutes past 11 in the evening over here in the UK. I just wanted to make this quick interpretation video based on the iPad Goat 2 video. Now this is taken from the chalkboard in the classroom within the first minute of the video beginning, and what I've done is I've taken a screenshot specifically of the hangman section and I've cut out the letters and in some cases numbers that have been put in the hangman game. What I see is that the N or the Z, which it still could be, obviously that could be a reference to New Zealand, could also be a 7 and a 1. Now January the 7th has passed, so I'm looking at July the 1st. The next letter in that sequence going backwards is the I or the T, but it could also be a capital H. So I took those three letters and I spaced them out down here, and arranged they spell the word hit. So 7-1 hit. The next letter I took is the L, which has a very faint mark that has been rubbed out. You can just see there, which comes down from the L down past the bar below and ends right about here. So they drew it in, then they rubbed it out, but they left enough residue to let you know that there was something there. So I took that, and because it didn't mean anything the way it was arranged, I've just mirrored it. So with the residue line drawn in, it makes the letter F. Accompany that with the letter L. So just like the ITH, you've got multiple references, which could be an F and an L, just as the N or the Z could be the numbers 7 and 1. The next letters along would be 0, V, and E. At least that's what it appears to be. But to me, I cut out the letters and the space bars beneath them because they're drawn so close to the letters. And what I get from that is the number 10, the letter K, and the letters I and D, with the tail of the D fading out but coming back in at the end, so it looks like an I dot D. Now I've interpreted that in previous videos as meaning identified, 10K, which would be 10,000 identified, and I've obviously associated that with the hangman and the symbolism that it represents, which is death. So I assumed that that would be 10,000 people identified in some sort of mass casualty incident. However, taking the whole thing in context, the hangman is not just a hangman, but it's also a broken circuit. As you can see, I've written it in there. You can see that potentially light bulb, battery, wires, switches, but the switches aren't connected. So it's a broken circuit. The E is accompanied with the next four letters, which spell out the word volt. Again, another connection to electricity, broken circuit electricity. And then you've got the NZ or the 7-1, which is also drawn similarly to the symbol for electricity, power, or charge. And taking that all together, when I looked at the ID, I thought maybe it's not identified, but rather in darkness. So if I took all of that together, 7-1, hit, FL, those two letters, they accompany the state of Florida. 10,000 in darkness. The interpretation I'm getting from all of that in context is something to do with potentially broken circuits or perhaps a cyber attack, because we do hear that tapping reference in the beginning of the video. Perhaps on July 1st, Florida hit by cyber attack, potentially something to do with their electric functions. leaving at least 10,000 people in darkness. Then when I got that interpretation, I started thinking of my previous interpretations associated with the number 27 and how that could potentially link to the next day, which would be July the 2nd. For example, in this breakdown I did in a very early video, in the beginning the George Bush character shows his hands in the formation of 10, 10, 3 and 4 on the other hand, which equals 7, and I put those numbers together and I see the number 27. I still think that number as a whole has a significance to a particular month, perhaps August, or even July still, but putting that aside, it could obviously be a reference to July 2nd, just backwards. The number is shown again on the wall in the background of the classroom behind the blue children, with the rabbit's ears making the number 2 and the vine leaves next to it making the number 7. Although that rabbit or hare is looking at the 8th character in the blue lineup, so that's why I've said potentially August 27th, but not to ignore July the 2nd. Up here, one of the children in the classroom has the number 7 emblazoned on one side of his head and 2 marks emblazoned on the other. 7-2, July 2nd potentially. On Obama's shoe, we have a potential reference again to 7-1. The shark itself bears the number 2 in its mouth shape, which goes around in the number 2, you can just see there, and the tail flicks off into a series of 7s, which again is why I've said the 27th of July could be another potential watch for these things. But it doesn't end there with the hidden and the covered in this video. Again, for example, in this tsunami wave, the submarine or the missile that's coming up out of it, if I zoom in you can see that just there. Even the lines and the foaming above suggesting it's coming up out of the wave, creating a spray of water as it does so. The detail in it is quite remarkable considering they've hidden it. After putting that detail in, you hardly see it in the video at all. Again, another possible reference to a July timeline with the Morse code that's encoded on the tower, on one of the towers in the iPad Go 2 video. An EMP, again a reference to electricity, something to do with power, the lights going out, the generators malfunctioning, something happening with electricity. 7-3, but this time there's a potential connection with New York rather than Florida, so maybe there's a event on July 1st with Florida. July 2nd we've got plenty of references to, doesn't particularly indicate a location, but then we've also got 7-3 where we may be seeing New York. This was J.K. Bugout's work, had to get to what, or maybe that's had to get 2 as in the number 2. They got 1 with 9/11, maybe they get a second one with July 1st or July 2nd. Again, that reference with the end of the iPad Go 2 title, the T could be referencing an upside down 7 with the number 2 just there. The hidden goes further. I've shown you guys the chalkboard when we were looking at it earlier in the video, or in the actual video. You don't see these things, they're shown as residue marks on the chalkboard, but with a little bit of video adjustment you can see what they were hiding. Shapes of demon heads, at least that's what they look like to me, grinning, having potential reference to jokes, and obviously we have the "fool me once" reference in this video. A man's head just here. If you zoom in you can even see a shine on the hair, shaved sides, a similar style to the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and obviously the missile slash penis would be on his forehead, but you know, put that aside, that would be something I'm not really going to go into. But again, more hidden images. When you zoom in, you can see there's a shape of a human-like skull, but more demonic because of the horns that are coming off of either side of the head. You can see the darkened eyes, the nose, the very grimaced mouth. I'm not sure, but there might be a crown on the head. I'll have to see if I can make that a little bit clearer. I don't know why, but a half beast, half man hanging on to the heart. You can see the beard or the goatee, the two horns above the head. I've shown these images before, but it's been a very long time. And previously, when I've shown people this part of the image, I've shown them this circular ball here. Looks like something impacting a larger ball, which obviously could be some sort of meteor impact or something like that. We've been shown plenty of that in predictive programming. But I also do now see what other people are saying in the grey alien that sits off to the side just here. The head you can see just there looking this way. And I don't know why, but in the beginning of the video there's the alien sound with the reference it's making. In the goat's eye, if you zoom in very closely, you can see a silhouette of an astronaut, as I've shown in previous videos. There's so much hidden in here, and you wonder why. What was the point of it all? There's no ads on the video, doesn't appear to be making money in any way, but someone spent a lot of time creating a lot of images and then hiding them, making them look rubbed out, subduing them into the background. For what reason? The heliofont title itself spelling out the final when rearranged. It's an anagram. The final eclipse, we do have an eclipse, an annular solar eclipse coming up on the 21st of June, but I don't feel like that's the final one that this video may be referencing. Maybe the final one in the year where these things are happening. 2020 seems like a very turbulent year, and I don't think anyone will disagree with that characterization of the year. But even going back, this is what you see when you watch the video, and you can see where the images are rubbed out. The residue is left to show you that something was there. And then as you examine further, you can see how those images are brought to the forefront, pushing the foreground images into the background, showing you how obvious it really is once you spot it. Same again here. This is what you see when you're watching the video, just a couple of residue marks, and then you suddenly realize there's much more to see. Again on the ground, flip it upside down so you can see things correctly, and then you start to reveal the submarine or the missile that comes out of the tsunami. In this image, you can already see it, the dark silhouette of the submarine sitting on top of the tsunami wave, which they've drawn to look like the actual skyline, but actually it's the raised up ocean. And then when you clarify it some more, you can see that dark submarine reveal itself, and again the earth cracking, the earth lifting, a huge explosion underneath. It all kind of gives you a reference to something nuclear being detonated in the earth, causing a severe fracture, and the earth to lift up, a tsunami wave to come from that, and obviously submarines involved in some way. Perhaps the tsunami wave reveals them, and that's why in this image we have the submarine coming up out of the tsunami wave. Perhaps it's to do with the explosion that happens in the ocean. But there we go. That's my interpretation for today. 7-1 hit Florida, 10,000 in darkness. I hope and pray it doesn't happen. But look at this year, and if it's gonna happen in any year, this year is kind of the most likely for it to happen, especially with North Korea just blowing up its liaison office with South Korea and going back into its military rhetoric of starting some sort of conflict with their neighbor. And obviously that may involve some sort of event with America. And obviously the North Koreans are well known, or have been positioned to be blamed for cyber attacks, with their many cyber attacks on many different institutions, including those that are related to power. But again, we can't put aside the fact that this could be a false flag 9/11 style attack, which is what this entire video really is about, leading on to more darker biblical things associated with the Antichrist. That's it, you guys. If you've managed to get to the end of this video, thank you very much for listening. Yeah, be alert throughout this whole year. Always be alert, but you know, with all the things that's going on, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. And yeah, July 1st. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.